So good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Marissa True. And for our next session, we're going to be discussing the topic, defining Web3, how the world of digital will evolve. And so to answer that, on stage, we have Andrew Klein, VP of NFT and Metaverse Brand Experiences at Suite. We have Mark Soares, CMO of Blokhaus, and virtually joining us, we have Elley Cheng, VP and General Manager of Pantone. So welcome to the three of you. Thank you so much for being here. So we're going to start with the bare basics. And Mark, I'm going to target you for the question of, for the unfamiliar, can you help us define what exactly Web3 is, at least in concept?
I can give it a shot. And I say that because Web3 is still a new concept that's still being formalized. So I don't know that anyone can give a definitive answer as to what Web3 is or will be. But you have a general idea that the underlying theme is about ownership, right? So about empowering users to not just be users, but to transcend that and actually own their part of their digital future. And I think that's a really big shift that causes brands and users to basically interact differently. So you're no longer beholden to large brands like the Facebooks, the Amazons, the Twitters of the world. You become an active participant and an active owner in the experience. And ultimately, it allows you to own the data and allows you to own part of the experience.
So what differentiates Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3? Because clearly two versions of the web existed before this.
Yeah. I mean, I think Web 1 was about just sharing content, and it was really one-way communication, right? You're posting content, others can, read it. The Web 2 is more social and interactive, so there's a little bit of back and forth going on, right? But it's happening within these centralized kind of spaces, social spaces. And then Web 3, it's about taking ownership of those interactions and that, taking ownership of what you're doing in those spaces. So using Facebook as an example, the things that you do on Facebook, whether you think about it or not, they hold a lot of value, right? You're curating this wonderful Facebook page. I'm sure it's amazing, right? Over many, many years. And, what happens if that were to be shut off tomorrow, right? You would probably feel like that's been taken away from you.
Yeah, there's a sentimentality or there's an emotional value attached to your digital life already.
Right, and then, so Web3, the real promise of Web3 is perhaps, you should have a say on whether that should be shut off or taken away from you. You should actually have some control over it. You should have some ownership of that. Because there is value, and people are living digitally more than ever in a digital realm. So that notion of what is value, are real life experiences the only thing that hold value, or digital experiences hold value as well? And I think the answer is they do. And you should seek to be able to own part of that. So you're not just a user.
So obviously in Blockspace, we're celebrating all facets of what Web3 is and could be. And one of the features in this space is the Pantone Color Room, which features Very Perry. And so for that, I'd like to ask you, Elley, can you tell us a bit more about the Pantone Color of the Year initiative and how you've incorporated a blockchain element to it this year?
Yeah, of course. Pantone started the Color of the Year initiative since the year 1999, with the first color for 2000 announced as a cerulean. And the idea really wasn't to say, everyone now start dressing in a certain color the next year. It's all about being able to provide a visual adjective, really, to encompass the mood, what we're all looking forward to for what's to come. And so being able to kind of really rally up some emotions behind colors and gets everyone excited. And that's really what our the Color Year initiatives is really meant for. And this year is the Very Perry. This is one of the years where we really thought that the idea of blending the physical world and metaverse is really coming to play. And this purple and this blue that looks kind of like a purple with a bit of an element of red. It's really there to almost kind of give that that feeling of things can change, but it's going to be fun. So this is something that we were looking forward to. That's the emotion that we have coming into the year. Instead, I think the whole team is excited about the Color of the Year room because hopefully everyone can go in there. And on top of that, not just to get that feeling, but to also see some NFTs minted that are meant for giveaways. And this is just a fun way for us to participate in a trend, and it's really meant to really put the power in the artist's hands. We were so happy to be collaborating with the artists directly and being able to have them use our color, create some color inspired NFTs, and offer that to everyone to enjoy. So that's that's something fun that hopefully everyone is enjoying today and this weekend.
Can you elaborate a bit more on what Pantone is doing with the Color of the Year initiative at South by Southwest specifically?
Yeah, so we're giving away, I think, 10,000 NFTs, and they're based on a few pieces of artwork inspired by our Color of the Year, Very Perry. And part of that, I do believe that it is first come, first serve. So hopefully everyone can get the chance to get one.
And Andrew, over to you. Can you tell us about Suite? So essentially, what is it? What is its mission? And what's its goal?
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta mint one of those NFTs later for sure. Suite is a NFT marketplace, and uniquely, it's an NFT marketplace that allows consumers to easily get NFTs, and I can't say that enough. It's really frictionless. I have been in the NFT space myself as exploring and getting pretty much obsessed with it, and I'm very techy, very technological, and I know my way around the internet. But even when I got started, it was like a little bit scary, and it was all very complex. So, even for someone who's as proficient as I am, I had hurdles securing my MetaMask and getting, the cryptocurrencies funded and moved from the Coinbase to this, and that. It's a lot of steps. And what Suite is a easy-to-use marketplace where you could come in and you could sign in with your Google account, your Apple Pay, your Twitter, an email, or your phone number, and you can get an NFT like that. So it's really frictionless. It's very easy to get. And I think one of the things that's so exciting about it is that we are bringing brands into the space and helping them understand how do we create really fun, engaging NFT experiences that will allow them to connect with their audiences, allow them to connect with their fans, but make it very easy and to get without a lot of scary hurdles or worries about do I need to get cryptocurrencies? It's not even something that you would have to worry about because we accept fiat and crypto. So it's really really easy, fun, and gamified as well. So. It's not like just going and getting a JPEG on another marketplace. It's about having a good time and connecting with the brand in a new way.
Yeah, I think the user experience has always been a massive hurdle for the blockchain space. And I think if you're flattening the learning curve for both consumers and brands, it's basically going to create an environment where more people are willing to engage. But one thing, as we kind of steer this conversation towards Web3 specifically, is why the focus on NFTs as being a fundamental component of this Web3 future, and why Suite is focusing on that.
Sure. If you look at what you were just saying about like the evolution from Web 1, 2, and 3, most of us, almost all of us, are sitting in Web 2. It's an evolution. It's we're eventually going to Web 3 altogether. There will be a Web 4. It's going to happen. Let's get Web 3 figured out first. But what the benefit is for not only for brands but also for consumers is this connection and a transparent connection. Right now we're very much in these walled garden experiences. There's no question that there's this thing called in the marketing world called the death of the cookie. This cookie that has tracked you forever. You look at a product on a website and it just follows you all over the place because you got cookied. Well, we are now being trained to shut that off. You open and install a new application. It says, would you like us to track you? And probably saying, no, thank you. And that's actually severing connections between brands and consumers and severing data points and insights that we could get. So what NFTs allow us to do is allow, again, brands to create fun ways for consumers to collect an NFT. And then not only collect it, but then that's like an opt-in, that you're saying that I want this, I want to participate. Now, this is persistent, and we can now understand, who has an NFT in their wallet, and how can we engage them in the future? How do we unlock access for them? How do we bring them closer to brand experiences? How do we give them perks? How do we airdrop them things when it's meaningful? You don't want to spam anybody, but you want to really create super fun, compelling experiences that get them to connect more, get them to appreciate your brand, and even allow them to be core members of your brand's community.
So beyond establishing that core connection, I want to open this question out to all three of you, which is, what are the primary opportunities that each of you see in this Web3 space, whether it relates to brands specifically who are trying to engage or the consumer themselves? So we've touched upon connection and we touched upon ownership, but what else are we looking at that's really drawing us in? Mark?
Well, I mean, looking at it from a marketer's point of view, and that is what I am, Andrew is completely correct, and it's become quite difficult as a marketer. Okay, so you've got GDPR, you've got CCPA, you've got the cookie troubles, right? So it's become quite difficult to effectively and accurately target users, which as a user, that's kind of cool. I appreciate that as a user, right? Because it benefits users. However, brands do have a need to meaningfully interact with users and actually deliver some value. And by the way, not all targeted advertising is bad. Like, I think if you rewind a decade or so, I remember getting ads on Google that made no sense whatsoever. I'm like, this is just weird, So I kind of appreciate, some targeted or some meaningful advertising because it acts as a shortcut to me. But maybe I'm just biased because I'm a marketer. But the point is, it's more difficult than ever to target users and deliver value through this kind of targeting. And it's also quite challenging to handle PII, so personal identifiable information is frankly a liability. And I actually think that NFTs can help resolve that a little bit, and Web3 can help resolve that, because you're going to own, your own digital item as an NFT, and proof of ownership is basically proof of fandom. And if you look at it from a traditional marketing standpoint, most brands have this gigantic list of this database of users who have registered products, right? And because they have a registered product, you're then going to hit them up with emails saying, hey, you own this, maybe you want to buy this. But you actually don't know if they still own the product. You don't have no idea if they've gifted it to somebody, if they've sold it, garage sale, whatever, right? So you don't know if this person actually owns it or if they actually care for it. And NFTs are a really straight, very accurate way of saying, hey, you own this, so you own this comic book, and I can see that you definitely own this comic book, right? So you own this Hulk comic book, I can maybe target you with a Hulk promotion. It's very, very, very efficient. And the beauty is that you can kind of, as a brand, you can throw that up in the air as an incentive, and then you're kind of meeting the user halfway. So the user has to then say, hey, I want that. So Marvel is giving out free premieres of the next Hulk movie to anyone who owns a Hulk comic book. I own a Hulk comic book. Yeah, I'll take that. That's cool. I'll participate in that. To me, that's like a collaborative almost interaction between the brand and the user, and that's fair. And it doesn't put PII at risk, and it kind of helps with all the GDPR, CCPA, and all the regulations that have greatly affected targeting, et cetera.
So it's basically taking it from the concept of throwing everything at a wall and seeing what sticks to actually having a conversation between the two entities. And in that, going back to Andrew's point about establishing a much closer connection between brand and almost in that sense, offering it a bit more humanity, because you feel like you're actually interacting with something rather than just being a consumer of it.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of one of our programs that we're running right now. It's with the Cleveland Cavaliers, an NBA team. and it's a really awesome program. So we Cleveland Cavaliers really wanted to engage their fan base and reward people for coming to their home games. And we created this really awesome experience called the Cleveland Cavs Locker. So mycavslocker.io. It's a fully branded Cavaliers locker experience, and a locker is your first NFT. It's your first entry point. So we made 100,000 of these lockers on Tezos as NFTs and allowed fans to come claim them. And once you claim them, you basically enter this cool little world, a microverse of the Cleveland Cavaliers, where you could see what you could do now. You can now start collecting NFTs as a fan of the team and fill up this locker with really cool stuff. And so we make these beautiful three-dimensional object NFTs that can be collected when you go to a home game. And when you go to the home game, you're going to see QR codes within the arena. You're going to see QR codes in the suites, and during the halftime, it's going to say on the mega screen, scan this, and we can see everyone's engaging with it. People are having fun because everyone, it was a pandemic. Everyone knows how to scan a QR code now. You've been scanning menus for 2 years. Even grandparents are very familiar with how to scan a QR code. So, that's actually a behavior now that's accepted. So QR codes all over our, on-site experience. People are physically there. Now they're able to scan with their phone and like that, claim an awesome NFT that's a collectible. Now, some of those NFTs are rare. Some are gold and some are more common. But if you get gold ones, you as a collector say, wow, this is really awesome. Wait a minute, somebody made a bid or somebody wants this from me. They're actually willing to buy it from me? Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a bonus, it's a perk, but you might just want to hang on to it to make, collect all the best NFTs. And then as you collect more, there's gamification. You'll be able to unlock perks and rewards with the Cleveland Cavaliers. There's a status bar. So the more that you go to the games, the more you get, the more that you earn. And fans are really loving this.
Yeah, so we're actually looking at the evolution of this marketing play in terms of straddling the online experience and the offline experience and going more into how we're going to revolutionize, frankly, brand loyalty programs even.
Yes, absolutely.
I know, for example, coming from Singapore Airlines, the national carrier, has actually looked at using blockchain technology to cultivate a better and stronger loyalty program through similar mechanisms. But then for those without that infrastructure in place, like Pantone, so Elley, I want to bring this back to you. I want to ask kind of, for example, beyond the Pantone Color of the Year initiative and beyond what's being done at South by Southwest, how exactly is Pantone sort of looking forward into how it wants to use this sort of technology to establish stronger connections with their followers and their avid, fan base?
Yeah, absolutely. With this initiative, it's only the beginning, and I love what Andrew said about being able to leverage an NFT really to own your piece of memory, right? It's a piece of experience that you own, and now you have it, and you get to figure out what you want to do with it, and whether you want to display it or you want to share that with someone else. And similarly, we want to be able to leverage the technology to help bring ownership of something that someone has done. Maybe it's a piece of design, maybe it's an idea that they have, and be able to take full ownership and control of where it goes and what happens to it. What Mark, you were saying earlier about what Web3 will become, I'm definitely extremely interested in how that will impact not just the brand, but from the advertising and marketing perspective. So for Pantone, it'll be okay. Well, how is that going to change the way we function every day? But also, more importantly, for our audience of designers, how is that going to change their lives? Does that mean that for the pieces of work that they do, they have an easier way to track the success and then be able to get rewarded for the success that they have brought? Instead of creating a lie, seeing what's going to stick, and instead they can hone in on exactly what the success is and be able to reap the benefits of it instantly. So this is the idea of what Web3 should bring, and this is why Pantone wants to be we're curious. We're very curious. We want to see how that can change everyone, not just the company, but more importantly, how that's going to change the lives of all the everyday designers.
I mean, I completely agree that we're very much at the beginning of this potential. And I think in that people need to remember that, despite all the buzzwords and all the conversations that are taking place, there's a long road ahead. And so to have a very realistic idea of that road, we need to address some of the challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you actually foresee that need to be addressed before we can really take full advantage of this potential? Mark?
Well, I think Andrew hit on the biggest one, and I like to say for blockchain to win, it needs to become invisible. I really believe that, right? So you got to remove all the friction points, and Suite does a great job, unbelievable job, like really streamlining things, which is why all the brands love to work with Suite. The McLarens of the world, et cetera, have created great experiences there. Frankly, you've got the blockchain, which is this underlying layer that's going to empower things like Web3 and the Metaverse. Because what you're dealing with is this more involved interaction between humans digitally, right? So interaction between humans, which has really become a lot more prevalent in the digital realm over the last couple of years, this is interaction by definition is just taking and giving, or, and I think that inherently brings up the concept of ownership, which is one of the reasons why blockchain is really, really relevant, and why NFTs are become really, really relevant, and basically why Web3 is totally dependent on the concept of ownership in order to really elevate the level of interaction that people can have digitally. And Metaverse will also rely on that. So ultimately, it's about making the experience as seamless as possible for users. You have to reduce steps. You've got to make it as simple as logging into your social account to interact, and just remove all the roadblocks that exist from a technical standpoint and really shouldn't be there. If you could do that, people won't care that they're on Web3 or they're using blockchain. By the way, actually, one caveat there. They will care if it costs a ton of money, which Tezos is very cost effective. Just a little plug there. Because actually it's really important. Like, the blockchain that you use needs to scale and actually be, widely used. To be widely used, it needs to be scalable from a cost standpoint, et cetera. So you can't charge $200 for a transaction or to mint an NFT. Otherwise, people will notice that. Like, they'll definitely feel that friction. But with that out of the way, if you can remove the steps and simplify and streamline for the user, it doesn't matter that it's on the blockchain. It just matters that it's a great experience.
So on that thread, if we're looking at the efficiency of the blockchain, but that same blockchain also being rendered invisible, what does that mean for, on the technical point of view, the interoperability across different chains to give someone a very cohesive experience? Because if they're being siloed across, say, different chains and interacting with specific NFTs that only belong to specific chains, then is that not going to be another friction point?
Yeah, I was going to say that was going to be my friction point, was interoperability, right? Like, how can you, the whole point of NFTs is like the ideal vision of it is that full portability. You can literally take it and use it anywhere. But the reality of that is that every app, every game, every network would have to be, set up to interop with that specific blockchain, whether that's Polygon or that's Ethereum or that's Tezos, but we are seeing this happening. It's starting to get there. It's just not that quick. I would say it's almost like you could compare, like we keep saying Web 2 and Web 3, like think of your cell phone, like 3G, remember how exciting that was? Then there was 4G, and we were like going crazy. And then 5G was like, what we were talking about at South by, over the last couple of years. And are we still talking about it? No, we're not, because it's like breathing air. AT&T can talk to a Verizon phone, and a Verizon phone can talk to, any other onto Wi-Fi, right? All these things interop, and that's going to be key. But we're, again, early right now, but we're already seeing it. If you look at websites like On Cyber, which is a really cool, started off really as a NFT galleries website it's now pretty much evolved into its own Metaverse platform. They allow you to connect multiple blockchain and wallets. So I now have, these awesome art pieces that I have from my Tezos collection up on my wall, but then I have 3D objects and vehicles, like you can ride around from my Polygon chain, and then some crazy NFTs like my Atom Bomb squads on the other wall, and that's Ethereum. But it's all under one website, and that is like, wow, that's where the beauty of it is. I can have all my stuff. All my stuff is here, and I could bring it, and then everyone could come in and hang out and check it out. That's what happens. It's so much. It's fun. But once you get that mass, like I think, what a big turning point is when you see these game developers like Epic Games and Roblox, right? They are metaverse companies, but they're Web 2 metaverses. They don't have interoperability or portability to them, but they're certainly talking about it. And I think once you get that, McLaren is one of our clients at Suite. So when you build your McLaren race car as the NFT collectible, well, you could go drive that in Fortnite, or you could go drive that in Roblox, or you could go ride it in Riot Racers, or any of these different games. And I think that's where everyone's going to be like, oh my God, this is totally makes sense, and we all want it because it is everywhere and it works everywhere. So the interoperability is a challenge now, but we're so early, it's not going to be for long because we're already seeing it all coming together. And our wallets, our Suite wallets, are interoperable as well with multiple blockchains. So
I mean, it's good to recognize that while there are hurdles to overcome, I mean, we're starting the climb now. But then with all of these technical considerations in play, Elley, something I want to ask you is, what sort of outstanding questions do you have as a brand of how well you can integrate into this space, knowing that there are still these limitations in play, and how you can kind of make the best of this opportunity?
And I think Mark and Andrew, you guys both brought up two major questions that, of course, we'll have to, in time, figure out what that means, right? Interoperability is critical. Price is absolutely critical. And for Pantone, we are on the path to make sure that we are bringing solutions to help customers and brands to figure out an experience that's seamless between the virtual and the physical world. So this is a huge part of interoperability that needs to be successful, so that the same digital experience can be experienced physically and also in whichever metaverse you want to be in. But on top of that, there's also the typical security, as large brands will think about, well, this is a new technology, what does that mean? And also beyond that, it's also environmental impact, which is a primary reason why we really enjoy the partnership with Tezos, knowing that it is environmentally conscious. So we don't know what all these impacts really are, but at least we want to make sure that it's on our mind. And of course, as time passes, as some of these questions are answered, there's the element of education, which being able to let everyone know what these answers really are and how is that going to impact them, and make that very clear. And so then that would help us move into mass adoption. I think it's just like the old web, 1, 2, and it's there was one point in time everyone just thought, oh my God, that's crazy. You can buy pet food online. But hey, at this point, this is 20-something years ago, right? And this is now just like breathing air. Right? Everything should work well. You shouldn't have so much security concerns, and we should be able to know that we should do better in terms of sustainability as well.
Yeah, I like that Pantone's focus is very much asking questions around the sustainability of these opportunities, and especially on an ecological front as well, and making sure that brands that do engage in this space are doing so conscientiously and in a way that isn't going to ultimately have a more detrimental impact on the world. So I think it's great to know that global brands like Pantone are being conscientious about that. But in that, we can't say, honestly speaking, that all brands have the same considerations in play. So one question that is always on everyone's mind, especially on the consumer end of things, as someone who's looking at a major brand doing an NFT drop or their first blockchain fan experience, is how can you actually distinguish the activations that are a bit more froth and hype and not really well considered versus those that actually do have legs as a, a marketing opportunity to connect with their fan base? It's an open question for all.
I think that, there's a lot of it, obviously this is very exciting, and brands do what they do. They, want to do first to market opportunities. They want to innovate. They want to, carve their path forward and plant a flag, amongst their competitors, or at least be in front of. But, I think a lot of them are not necessarily seeing this as a FOMO, like the fear of missing out. It's more so of, I think, brands are getting in here to see that there is a real opportunity, and to seize that opportunity and to figure it out. Because again, we talked about some of the problems digital marketers face, with the death of the cookie and opting out of being tracked. So there has to be another way that we, connect with brands, and this is a fun way to do that. Now, what's really interesting is, the exciting stuff with NFTs over the last year really was, Bored Ape Yacht Club and CryptoPunks and, new brands that didn't exist. What we're talking about is brands that have existed for, 20, 50, 100 years that are still very relevant. And this is a way for them to come in and really be able to provide value, because not many of these new NFT companies, they have roadmaps. But the roadmaps are, like you were alluding to, like kind of vapor, right? Like until it happens, we're just talking about it. Well, brands actually have companies and organizations and teams behind them. They already have communities and fan bases, and have product, right, that they could push out and provide and bring people into in spaces. Like, they exist now. So I think as big brands get into this space, it's actually going to be more tangible than just being like, yeah, we're gonna invent a video game and it's on the roadmap, and that video game will have a token, and then I'm like, okay, hopefully.
Yeah. So I mean, so in that sense, then, despite brands having a learning curve to overcome, they actually still technically already have a head start, because they have a clearer understanding of what they feasibly need to do and what they actually need to accomplish before they can actually count it as a success.
I believe that fully. I mean, I'm wearing an NFT sweater that I got because I own an NFT. This is from Adam Bomb Squad of The Hundreds. So The Hundreds is a streetwear fashion brand by Bobby Hundreds. It's been around for about 18, 19 years now. But they, I wasn't necessarily aware. I didn't go buy the clothes. It wasn't until he started making NFTs that got my interest. And I said, wait a minute, this is a brand that has stuff. Like, you could get access to real stuff. And, when I was talking to my NFT collectors, they're like, what do you mean? What is this? I'm like, trust me, this could be something, because it's a real brand. And like, really? I'm like, yeah, not like this like pixelated, whatever it is that you've bought, that doesn't have anything to give you besides just a picture, right? And so I was able to have this Adam Bomb Squad NFT. I was able to go to their website, connect my wallet, and then get access to exclusive clothing. Like, that's what I packed for South by Southwest, is all Adam Bomb Squad clothes, because it was like cool and it's fun. And it's like, as I was scooting over here on a scooter, the whole thing played out in reality. I looked out of the corner of my eye and I see a guy wearing a sweatshirt, and it said, NFTs are a scam. And I'm like, I know what that is. That's actually the Hundreds Adam Bomb Squad sweater. It's a joke, but it was a sweatshirt that came out that says NFTs are a scam. Also as a digital wearable as well.
The irony is magic.
I pulled over and I said, hey, NFTs are a scam. And I unzipped my jacket and went like this. He goes, yes, the only person that really gets it, that I'm not literal about this.
And this is
I'm
that
like,
sense
yes,
of
because we're a community. And we fist bumped and we're like, yes, because we both own the NFT. And we bumped into each other on the street and immediately had a connection.
Yeah.
And we were both wearing the thing. And it's like a club. These are like digital country clubs, and but decentralized. So like, I don't know this person, but it was just that connection, and it all happened because of owning an NFT that it sparked.
So in that, yeah, so the NFT acts as a catalyst, but at the same time, as we mentioned before, we're seeing Web3 projects pop up left, right, and center. So Mark, a question I want to pose to you is, how do you establish like the legitimacy and the longevity of an NFT project or a Web3 project that lands on your desk?
Yeah, so I mean, there's no shortage of proposals and ideas. I think it's really important to note that for very large brands, they do have, first of all, it's quite challenging for them. Let me rant for a second. So having managed a very large brand before, you know, when the topic of NFTs come to in terms of the topic, there's a lot of people that get in that room. So you've got the lawyers, you've got the people that actually manage the brands, you've got the communications team, you've got the chief revenue officer, and everyone's trying to figure out like who owns this thing. Because the marketing team doesn't make products, but now somehow they have to create an NFT product that will generate revenue, that will take their IP and monetize it, right? Whether it's through merchandise or otherwise. So there's a lot of different teams that immediately get brought into this discussion, and they have to sort out like who owns it, and the answer is you all own it. You have to all come to a consensus as to how to move forward. But those very large brands, they have considerations. Energy efficiency is one of those. Like literally, they cannot, proceed until they find a solution to the energy requirement of a blockchain. So they'll use an energy efficient blockchain, and then they'll strategize a proper roadmap that they'll follow through. And to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I view NFTs as basically selling future engagement. And if you're not considering it that way, like if you're actually selling the piece, what you're selling to the user is future engagement. And if you haven't considered what that future engagement is, I'm not buying it. Because it just tells me you're trying to jump on the hype, and it's almost like a hit and run type thing.
Right.
And then there's no longevity to it.
So essentially, if you rest in just delivering a limited NFT experience, then you've not really understood the concept of how you can actually use that to build this sense of community that we were just discussing and that sense of connection.
Correct.
So then, Elley, with all of this, again, into consideration, how much of blockchain and the metaverse and Web3 is starting to dominate Pantone's discussions? Like, within whether it's on a board level, across different teams, how much has it started to take over?
Well, Pantone functions very much like a family. So there's really no boardroom. Everyone jumps in and speaks their mind all the time. And certainly in our everyday conversation, the metaverse, NFTs, Web3, these are the vocabularies that found their way in very recently, and now it's really dominating our conversation because we're thinking about the designers and how is this going to impact them, and is this something that how can we actually act on this? And we're not a technology company and we're not perfect in any way, but we do want to learn, want to figure out how can we work with partners who can help us figure out our path to offer the right products to on Web3 and to the future of what a designer's workflow will be. So it is something that we're actively exploring. I think a big part of it is we know what we can do today. We know that we can help companies make the right experience between the metaverse and the physical world from just the visual perspective. But then how can we participate even more, and how can we do more? And this is something that we rely heavily on those who know much more about the space than us to educate us and brainstorm how we can partner and do something interesting together.
Yeah, I like that it's the acknowledgement that you don't have to be a technology company to start looking into how you can integrate this into a brand. And I think that's a massive opportunity that people are still wrapping their heads around. And again, everyone's at different stages in the journey, but it's exciting to see everyone get involved. We've only got about 5 minutes left on the clock. So I've got one final question that I want to ask each of you, which is, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned that you wish other brands could know ahead of time?
This is permanent. For the most part, it's permanent, right? Like, don't be a brand and come into NFTs like, bop, bop, in and out, Like, that's not gonna fly. I mean, it could work, it could do something, but you want to have something that is real, and take advantage of being early in this space and doing amazing, innovative things that have never been done before. I mean, that is what the beauty of this whole landscape is that just infinite innovation opportunities. So utilize the fact that these NFTs are on the blockchain, and when things go on the blockchain, they're on the blockchain. Even if you delete it, the fact that you deleted it is on the blockchain. So everything is there forever, and really make sure that you do it thoughtfully, that you do it with a Web3 community mentality. Like, you must, don't do Web2 things in a Web3 world. You're gonna get burned. It's because that's not the way the game is played. So think about what the Web3 community and your current audience wants and loves, and give that to them, and allow them to come in and have access to your brand. But do it knowing that this is the long game, not just a one and done opportunity.
Mark?
I mean, there's a lot of lessons hard learned over the last year. I would say a couple of things. So the blockchain you select really matters, because I've seen way too many brands have to backtrack because they've made the wrong choice. So that does matter. I think that if you are selling NFTs as a brand, have your strategy figured out. It is not a one and done thing. That does not work. Like, you are selling a product, and as far as I'm concerned, you're selling future engagement to the fans that are purchasing this. So be respectful of the fans. Now, having said that, if you are selling the NFT, you should have the full strategy figured out. If you are gifting the NFT, which I recommend to brands to do as the first try, then it's okay to not have everything figured out, but it's necessary for you to commit to do future engagement with those who are actually receiving the NFT. And the reason why it's important for brands to opt to actually do an NFT is, I view it almost like the sooner you do it, the more people you can reach in the future. Because remember, an NFT is like this link back in time to the person who acquired this NFT or received it. So by gifting people, you then are able to reach out to them and target them with future experiences. So every day that goes by that you don't do an NFT, you're really missing out. I mean, I don't want to make brands, FOMO, but technically, I almost view it, it's not the perfect analogy, but I almost view it as Google Analytics. Like, you got to put analytics on your site to at least monitor the inbound traffic and see what's going on. Because if you don't start today, you'll never be able to monitor that, right? So from a marketer standpoint, I view it the same way, even though it's not apples to apples. But it's like, if you don't start engaging with them now, later on, you'll really regret, because you'll really miss out on.
So you need that benchmark for comparison.
Yeah, but I wouldn't recommend just jumping into it, especially if you're going to sell it, without having some strategy figured out. If you're gifting it, it's okay. Just pick an energy-efficient blockchain, please, because they'll save you a lot of headaches, and be mindful and respectful of the people who are receiving it.
And Elley, what about you?
I think it would be to always keep an open mind. I think in the very beginning, there's a lot of like, oh my gosh, what is this thing? Is this a big hype? Are we just going to be, laughed out of the room? I remember the minute I said the word NFT, I got a team of accountants and a count of lawyers. I'm just kind of right next to you, next to my shoulders. And no one really understood what does that mean. And I think as the team took a step back and thought, well, why don't we, try storm? This is one of the words, that we have internally. Try storm. Just like, yeah, let's dip our toes in it. Let's figure out how we can explore, and let's be a little brave. If we, again, as I mentioned, we're not perfect anyway. If we screw up, then we'll try again better next time, and learn from our lessons. But all of this is just being able to, try something, be brave about it, and learn from it. And I love how, Mark, you were mentioning about, gifting as a way to, really open a conversation. Yeah, I think, for brands like, like Pantone, we're not we're not going to dive, head first into, forming our own blockchain, right? Like we're not a tech company. But what we love to be able to do is to start a conversation with, with our community, and by giving a piece of us to them, we love to be able to continue this conversation. And then in many ways, we're transforming our products, our solutions. We're not going to get it right the first time. Sometimes we don't get it right the second or third time, but we want that feedback. We want to be able to continue this conversation. Don't judge us, by our failures immediately and then walk away. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we want to fix it. So we want to be able to leverage this opportunity to really continue the conversation, have an open conversation.
So it's being open-minded, being conscientious of your blockchain that you choose to engage with, and being in it for the long haul. Well, I mean, amazing perspective shared. Thank you so much for all of it. And thank you to the crowd for, staying engaged throughout.